Hi, Tony. Based on your response to the two scenarios in the counseling experiences, we have similar points of view. I too resonated with the second counselor versus the first. But I really wanted to focus on your question around why were the two experiences different? And although I thought both of them had a warmth about them, a genuineness in the approach, which I think that authenticity is something the chapter discusses as effective. The way in which they went about it was certainly different, and it occurred to me that perhaps each of the clients, had different needs in terms of what was more effective in approach. So perhaps the counselors were considering that. It felt like in the first scenario that counselor was, while he was asking great open-ended questions, he was certainly not opening the conversation to me in terms of having the client start thinking about ways or techniques to solve for that perfectionist sort of mentality. Whereas the second counselor, to your point, was pushing maybe a little, or I think constructively suggesting that the girl who was going out with this guy and perhaps conforming to what his likes and interests were versus her own, it felt as though he was using techniques to have her kind of explore why she might be gravitating towards that same behavior again. So one of the things that caught my attention as I was thinking about the question that you posed was a study on cognitive behavioral therapy. And this treatment is centered around stress-related disorders and anxiety. And while that particular client may not have had either one of those things, I can certainly appreciate that some of the loneliness that she describes and the reasons that she's pushing herself to kind of go out and do things, even if it is a compromise on what she likes, could create some anxiety. So I wanted to share something that this study posed. It talks about the cognitive interventions that our emotional experiences are dictated by our own interpretation of that event. And if we have a negative cognitive distortion on that event, then through cognitive behavioral therapy, we can have more adaptive thinking through cognitive restructuring. And it occurred to me that perhaps that second counselor was doing just that, as he was pushing her a bit to think differently about choices in the past versus choices in the future. That maybe what he was doing is trying to reframe so that she could begin a healthier pattern of behavior with cognitive thinking. So I'll drop the article information in the references. Thanks so much.